This conference will now be recorded.
All right. After minor technical difficulties, we're calling to order the Monterey Select Board on June 4th at 6:03 PM. Susan and myself, Justin, are present in town hall, and we have Frank on the phone. Right, Frank? Okay. Great. The first order of business is, well, really the first two are the GZA proposal for the flood control benefits study, which is a flat agreement of $13,250 is being proposed, and simultaneously funding for the proposal. I just spoke with Eileen, and they are planning on meeting next Wednesday. So whether we go with a reserve fund transfer or a transfer appropriation request, they have to approve it, so
Right.
the funding won't be ready till next Wednesday. I guess we are actually meeting next Wednesday. My thought was that we could approve it conditional upon
Their approval.
their approval of the funds,
I think that works.
in any case, and then we won't have to bring it up again here. I can just, whenever they approve it, I can sign the contract and that can be that.
I think it's an excellent idea.
I noticed, cause I know we had talked, Roger and I spoke briefly yesterday about the funding. I noticed as of April, the 5,000 was still in dam.
I talked to Jim today, and he said that they did do an inspection.
Yeah.
And, that they just hadn't sent an invoice yet. He included me on the email
Okay.
and reached out to, I forget who it was from GZA, and said we needed to get the invoice, and he said,
Oh, cause GZA does the normal
yeah,
assessment and maintenance.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
so this is going the other way, too.
yes, yeah.
so just to clear that up, cause that might have been confusing, there's 5,000 budgeted every year for dam maintenance.
Right.
And I didn't know, because as of the end of April, that was still on the account, I didn't know if that 5,000 was available to use, but it sounds like no, the normal inspection the normal routine inspection is being paid for from that 5,000.
Yeah, it had been done,
But it hadn't been paid for
but it
yet.
hadn't been paid for yet, yeah.
Speaking of engineering and whatnot, when Reifenberg reached out again, but I thought that we emailed, I was included on the email where you sent the award letter last week.
I saw it too.
Did
So-
you get back to them today at all?
No, I didn't hear anything from them at all. I didn't-
Someone from Reifenberg wrote, and we can just send the award letter again, but
I emailed it, and I
Seems
actually,
like they need a phone call because it's not,
oh, I can call.
maybe the wrong person is getting the email.
I
got nothing.
I emailed to the person who was on the
On the
contract, and I
contract.
called up and got his email address.
my only thought is maybe he was on vacation or something, because it was very clearly to everybody.
Mhm.
So,
So, yeah, Derek Shipper from GZA is who we spoke to today. But yeah,
so,
I'll, did they send an email to you? To you?
yeah,
If you could forward that to me.
I think you were on it,
But that's Riffenberg, not GCA.
Riffenberg.
different, but it was just on my mind
Right, I
because
know.
of this stuff.
No, he said he spoke to somebody at GZA, and I wanted to make clear that you were talking about Riffenberg, not GZA.
Yeah.
I didn't get an email from them today.
I will follow up.
Was it today or a couple of days ago?
No, it was today.
Okay.
I
I read it, but I don't,
got
I read too many different emails on the same day.
pictures here. So this is coming out of office assistant, so
One's coming out of
Board
office assistant,
secretary.
select board secretary, and I talked to Jim, and he said to take it out of, what's that? third one?
property services.
Property services, he's gonna take it out of that.
So-
There was like 11 grand. You okay?
Oh my God. Just so you know, Mickey, since you're the interested citizen, we have 2,650 coming from DPW property services to dam inspection and maintenance. 3,000 from select board secretary to the same account, and 7,600 from office assistant salary to the same account. And these are just the appropriation transfer request forms. And the sum total will fund the flood control study that GZA will do on the dam and downstream about flooding. And they're studying 3 scenarios, whether we don't draw down at all, do a 3-foot drawdown or a 6-foot drawdown. and they're gonna look at that from various levels of flooding and also future potential worse flooding because of climate change. So I think all in all, it's 18 different scenarios that they're running.
And they check the flooding, like how far down?
I think it will be including the center of town, cause they're doing,
I mean, they go past like the dam.
well, GZA is doing the engineering for the culvert in the center of town. And they also do the regular inspection of the dam. So I believe it's gonna be downstream. I think at a certain, I don't think it's gonna be the whole length of the Concopot River, but
Because that goes following.
to Canaan at least.
Because where?
The Concopot's in Canaan.
I thought you, yeah, okay, yeah, I thought you said something else, so, yeah, it is.
So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and sign these. Frank? Yeah. Are you gonna be in town to sign these at some point?
I will be back Monday. I'll be back to town Sunday. I can come in Monday and sign it.
Yeah, if you are on board, then why don't you sign it before the finance committee will get them next Wednesday.
Okay, I'll come in Monday. I'm gonna be with Roger Monday too, but I can come in Monday morning and sign it.
Well, it's no, just meet your regular Monday meeting, cause they're not going to the finance committee until Wednesday.
Okay.
And this all, I mean, it stemmed from Concom denying the request to extend the drawdown, but also I think it's a good thing to know.
I think it's a
into the
really good thing
future,
to know.
so,
And so this, you'll wait to sign until after finance.
We need-
yeah.
We need,
I'm sorry.
we need to have a clear picture of what will happen if the drawdown doesn't happen and how much flood control it's actually accomplishing. And it's good to know.
Did you need to, vote or anything on, conditions like you had said you were going to do?
Well, yeah, so what I'll do is vote on the transfer appropriation request forms as I read them out. There were the three. I read them out. If anyone needs me to restate
I
it.
wrote them down. I got them.
So we'll vote on those appropriation transfer request forms first and then the contract.
And
So,
conditional on approval by the finance.
yes, conditional upon, of approval by the finance committee. So we'll vote, roll call, especially because Frank's remote. So Frank,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes,
and Justin, yes, as well. So those transfer forms are unanimously approved, the three of them.
Mhm.
Next, the contract. Does anyone have any questions before we vote to approve it?
Well, I got a question. Did I hear you say they're gonna look at this, or is that the contract for the dam drawdown?
Correct.
for analysis of the dam drawdown,
Pardon me?
analysis of flood control as a result of the dam drawdown.
But one of the analysis is not doing a drawdown, right?
So I'll read off, so in task 2 on page 2, they're looking at 3 return period floods under the existing winter drawdown operations. And they're looking at 3 instances, a 6-foot, a 3-foot, and a 0-foot, meaning not doing one. And then, but with those 3 options, they're looking at 3 floods, so I believe it would probably be something like a 100-year flood and a 25-year flood or something like that. So between the 3 flooding amounts and the 3 drawdown amounts, you're looking at 9. But then they're also looking at all those same things, but in the future with predicted climate change. And so you would double that 9, so they're looking at 18 scenarios.
Okay, I understand that, but, I mean, I just feel like we've always done a drawdown, haven't we?
That is not necessarily 100% true. As Jim referred to one time when he was in here, a previous director of operations, if he didn't draw down, it has not always been the exact same. And for years, when my father reached out to Maynard And what the old Concom order of conditions will show is actually years ago, they were doing 3 foot, 3 foot, 6 foot, and they followed that 3-year cycle. So it's not like we've just been doing a 6 foot drawdown as long as the dam's been there. And I believe, according to a previous director of operations, there was at least 1 year where I don't even think they really did a 3 foot drawdown in the same way. And in particular, because it was a very dry year and some people's wells were drying up, and there was some idea that that might, and I don't know the engineering behind it at all, but there was some idea, I believe, at the time that that might help wells from drying up. So,
Right.
all that being said, I believe at least once it hasn't really been drawn down. And
Although ironically, I feel like choosing not to draw down in a really dry year is indicating that its main purpose was for flood control. Because in a dry year, you're not concerned about flood control, which is why they didn't do the drawdown.
yes, but we're talking about drawdown in the middle of winter. As I recall, people's wells were drying up in the heat of summer. I don't really know. Greg, I don't really know. All
I
I,
mean, they're doing 18, providing 18 different studies. I would say yes, I understand what you're saying now. You know, my opinion is let's move forward with it.
and we may also come to a place in 5 years or 10 years where for X, Y, or Z, maybe we're not allowed to draw down.
Yeah.
Or maybe, we decided that's the best path forward for the fish and wildlife, and I'm not there now, I'm just saying, I feel like the data wouldn't hurt as long as
Right,
they're
I
gonna
understand
have.
what you're saying.
And no one's gonna do it better and cheaper because GZA is doing the annual inspection at the dam and they're doing the study in the center of town, so no one's gonna have more information.
And be more up to date to begin with. Okay.
Alright, I'll move to approve the contract with GZA for the flooding study.
I'll second.
And this will be conditional upon approval of the funds by the finance committee.
There's a signature line, but it's
Just one.
just one.
And we'll roll call vote, so Frank,
Yes,
Susan,
Yes.
and Justin, yes, so that's a unanimous approval. When and if finance committee approves the fund transfers, I will sign the contract, just because if we don't have the money, we can't sign it. So the next item is not urgent, but I do wanna put it on everyone's radars, and we broached the subject a little bit last week, which is special article carry forward. So I pulled from the report all of the special articles, of which there's only a few pages, really. There's 2 pages in an article. What we have to do each year, and sometimes it's been less controversial, but I liked last year when the select board actually reviewed them, because I think it's helpful, not only financially, but also operationally, to know what's getting done or what's not getting done. And also, like, if a project, only has a few $100s left, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. I also am a little bit skeptical of this report for this reason. I think that we already took from 422 highway, STM 1219, Article 8, Route 23, Main enhanced flood, $20,000.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I flagged, yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
transferred that last year into general stabilization.
Oh, let me follow. Do you have, is there minutes for that? or-
There's a town meeting vote.
The town meeting vote?
there's a
Um,
town meeting vote on that.
we put that into general stabilization.
That was that $20,000.
Yeah.
The,
Under
So,
Highway 422,
that being said, I wouldn't
page 2,
take
one down,
this as the
a perfect.
word.
Yeah. What concerns me though is, if was this a report you generated or?
This is all I
who
went,
generated it?
I
You
got it.
generated
So
it?
I didn't generate it. when they send us every month the expense control report,
Mhm.
this is all that's
Send
from,
that back to the general ledger.
I will say, it's very often wrong and pretty easily correctable in certain instances, so if you ever read the general ledger, like right now, and I'm asking actually all Susan and Frank, please both do it in the next couple of weeks before the end of the fiscal year,
Right.
because every time I read it, and it's not the end of the world, but it's good things to clean up. Every time I read it, there will be funds pulled from account that has $0, and you'll see -9,000 for paying the beach monitor. But then you'll see another account that has $9,000 to pay the beach monitor. So sometimes you just get double accounts or triple accounts, and these weird.
Is it the report generating
No,
thing, or is there
I
a
think in
problem?
that situation, they created a new account line.
Okay,
So it was in one line, and then they like
it got moved from one. to
moved
the
it, when they moved the dollars, I think the expended dollars were still in that line or something like that. Because I remember having a conversation about that line. But I'll check out, you saying that this was a town meeting vote last year?
Yes, yep.
At the special town meeting or the
Annual.
The annual town meeting?
But the problem is, what makes me anxious about this is that's not what the kind of thing that you just discussed. That means this has been held over for a whole year,
We don't know.
but we don't know. But why, what I'm asking is, why are the Vader accounts that off?
Well, I don't know if they are
It's,
off.
okay, so
The reporting is off? 20 grand in
No,
the wrong
No,
account
I
is
think-
off.
I think someone didn't convey, or someone didn't see that was supposed to be moved.
But
Okay.
here's the question that I don't know. It's kind of like when we dive into OPEB, because I really don't know this stuff well enough. I don't know if, when money is in the wrong account, in OPEB, in not being in OPEB, like it was earning interest in OPEB. With this also, I don't know, maybe the 20,000 already shows up in the general stabilization fund.
But there's no way to know, right? I mean,
No.
Yeah,
There-
but wouldn't you have done that after last year's, town hall meeting? It should have been done, after that.
You mean to like verify, to cross-check the books?
Yeah, they would,
Yeah.
there would be a journal entry in there somewhere that says.
There
this
would be a
fund-
journal entry in the first period of the first month of the year in July,
or not.
Or not.
or not, yeah.
Or not, which is, if we're not, means that,
That didn't
Yeah.
happen.
But if
happen.
we're showing it 10 months later, that's problematic.
what did it get moved into, do you know, stabilization?
General
So
stabilization.
you would see in that first month, like say, for example, there was an error, and if it was seen as a journal entry in the stabilization fund in July,
Mm.
but this is still here, then that was an error on the part of the accountant not moving that,
That's my
the
hope.
journal entry.
My
So
hope
it's-
is that
It was just missed.
the 20,000 made its way over and just hasn't been recorded here.
So
I don't know about that, I think
it seems to me like
if
we
it's
need to
still on
have
the books now, 10 months later,
Yeah.
it never made it, especially go to free cash, right?
So what we can do, let's say it's still on the books, we can either say, we voted at town meeting to move that, move it. Or we can
Right,
say, let's just let it roll over into free cash, like all the other things that we're not gonna carry forward.
except we already voted to
Yeah.
put it in stabilization. I think we have to put it in
I
stabilization.
think we can.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I just wanna say, I feel like this is the sort of thing that maybe needs, I hate to say this, but a new procedure, that at the end of July every year, we have, somebody does a double check to make sure that everything that happened at town meeting is properly accounted for in both Vadar and anywhere else we got
Do
to
that.
cross-check journal entries with Vadar to make sure it's properly up to date. That, if we did that, it might have caught the OPEB thing.
But frankly, it shouldn't be one of us, like, it shouldn't be one of, it should
I
probably be the
don't
account
care who
treasurer.
it is.
It should probably be,
Somebody has to
it's
do
probably
it,
already in their job description / contract.
but we need to
You're
be
right,
double
it should
checking
be
to make
the
sure they do.
accountant, and the accountant should send an email to the town administrator saying, I have made these entries.
Right.
There's
Somebody-
a big
we need to
number
check
of
that they're
times
doing their
to do it.
job,
That's
obviously.
not Apple.
I'll look into that.
I understand, I just wish things,
You wish everybody
I
did
know
the job.
there's the
they're supposed
checks
to
and
do.
balances, but yeah, it's really,
Now,
it's a lot of work to like every time I shouldn't even look at the reports. Every time I look at the reports, there's tens of thousands of dollars in the wrong place.
I get it. That's part of the reason I stopped doing it, because every time I found stuff like that, then it turned out not to be an issue, or I was just like, no, it's fine, it's just out of date or whatever. I'm like,
And they have strange, I know, in the library, things I've seen strange.
I hope they're not that cavalier about it.
No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't really joke about it, it's good to catch this kind of stuff, that's why I'm asking everyone to look at the reports. So just so you know, it's Article 25 of the May 6th, 2023 annual town meeting, Roger.
So Article 25.
And it was to see if the town will vote to transfer the remaining sum of $20,000 from Article 8 of the December 2019 special town meeting for phase 1 of the MVP grant, town's portion to the general stabilization account.
What year was that?
2023.
2023.
And also,
May 6th, 2023.
this isn't every single town meeting problem, because I realize it's our special town meetings are problematic too. Because multiple years in a row, we will very clearly transfer money to a line item. We'll say to transfer to this and specifically name a line item in the budget, and we'll say to this operating line item, and then somehow we have a special article. And that's how we ended up with the tree fund.
That's right, the tree fund.
We ended up with the tree fund. So my problem is we're not asking people to look through hundreds of pages of documents or thousands of pages of ledger. We're asking them to read a 5-page warrant and town meeting minutes and just get what's on those 5 pages in writing.
Yeah,
And again and
because
again.
It's not the volume,
What's that?
not the volume of entry.
And again, the town meeting minutes are just seemingly disregarded, and it's frustrating.
Well, we should talk, we can have a conversation with the accountant.
I mean, that's really the question, is there needs to be a conversation with somebody, is it the accountant?
I think that's where it
Well,
starts.
they're responsible for making the move, right?
So then, yeah, it's the accountant.
He does read the,
Yeah, the accountant,
the warrant.
the accountant should do some due diligence about checking reports before they go out. We're coming at the end of the year, July, did we get these warrants moved?
Yeah.
It's not rocket scientist stuff, it's just follow up.
And you're right, we shouldn't have to double check it, but we clearly do.
Yeah.
Because it happens every
Well,
day.
we will, but it doesn't
So-
mean we can't.
No, we need to be asking him to be accountable, but clearly in order to do that, we have to follow up in July, like, okay, we went back over it and these 4 haven't been done, or these 2 haven't been done, please fix them.
Well, I noticed one thing as well, this year in paying for a $190,000 truck, we paid for 60 from free cash and 130 from stabilization. But I don't know that we just need to make sure that happens. I mean, it's to pay for the truck, so the money can't, it's not like this where the money can sit there for another year and run over, so it's fine.
I mean, it may sit there
It's,
for another.
I think it might confuse people when we try to do a little bit out of the ordinary, things like,
Right,
what we did was admittedly out of the ordinary.
Mhm.
But the only reason we did it is because it had already been carried forward for 5 years, even though MVP phase 1 was
Was done.
completed years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And the article, as it was initially approved at town meeting, is very clearly about phase 1.
so it couldn't be applied to anything.
So it couldn't be applied to anything else. And yet there's been this mindset that, oh, if we use it for phase 1, we'll hang on to it until we need money for phase 3.
Mhm.
And then we'll transfer it. It's like the lighting at the community center.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there was $29,000 approved for lighting at the community center,
Mhm.
but we got the lighting project mostly done without spending any of it. But we'll hang on to it until
Mhm.
there's another project down the road.
But
So we need
then-
to get out of that mindset.
Yeah.
Municipalities do that
But
a
you
lot.
can't do it because the town votes on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but some people think, oh, we'll take it back to town meeting to transfer it, but clearly that's beyond our accounting capabilities.
it better to put it in
Well, we'll use
stabilization.
Santa Claus.
We should probably have a policy or not policy that says if a special article hasn't been spent within a certain specific amount of time, it needs to be rolled over.
Well,
But I-
Because there's issues with holding on to stuff for a long time.
But also there's a question of, do we make a policy where it gets rolled over to free cash, or a policy where it gets rolled over to stabilization? And in something like the community center lighting project, or this, I'd rather see it go into stabilization, because we know that down the road is an associated project that we're gonna need money from, and I'd rather draw that from, it might not be community center lighting, but it might be the community center pavilion, it might not be MVP 1, but it's gonna be MVP 3. So
I would leave it loosely worded, that the select board has the right to, move the money, if the money isn't spent in 3 years, the select board has the right to do a warrant and move it where appropriate.
I'm thinking 18 months.
Well, I'm thinking,
I said that number,
I'm thinking scratch the policy, because we also have a policy that says you gotta encumber things with an invoice, and we don't follow, so I think if we're all kind of generally headed in the same direction, then the select board should just go through this and carry forward very little. I think there are some legitimate carry forwards, but not many. I think to your point, Susan, we could transfer them to stabilization, but I think by default, if we don't carry them forward, they just roll into free cash. Meaning, we have to know before town meeting, okay, they're not gonna get used, let's transfer them to stabilization.
So we can't do it this year, but if we had thought about this
Yeah.
prior to town meeting, we could have made those calls.
Yes.
So it actually happened that way.
I think in a particular instance, like, okay, we know the lighting's not gonna get done, but we probably wanna use that for a future thing. We could, for a very specific instance, do it, but in general, the default is just let it roll into free cash.
Okay.
So going back to what I said, I don't necessarily, you're right, it shouldn't be a policy, it should be the responsibility of the town administrator.
Yeah.
To make sure that if somebody's asking for $10,000, that 3 years doesn't go by and they haven't bought what they said they were gonna use.
Yeah. So, I agree with that.
Okay, so now
Nikki,
looking at
do you have
this,
a
I
question?
was just gonna ask a question. So this money that, let's go back to the lights, the $29,000. And that hung on for a while because there were a lot of,
Iterations of procurement.
yeah, it was going on. If you weren't, you missed a whole fun. But
It was not fun.
when it's in general stabilization, do you know where the money came from that's in
No.
general stabilization?
we'd have to really.
It's kind of like in good faith.
I just didn't know if it was, there's some sort of,
The way I talked to the community center when we met, Roger and I met about it, it's like this. There's gonna be more money in free cash. So it's not earmarked, but and I know that when we certify $450,000 in free cash, it would have been 29,000 less had we carried forward 29,000 for community center lighting. So it's the same whether it's in stabilization or free cash, it's never earmarked. But if we all operate on the principle of, if you didn't spend the funds, let them go,
yeah,
then
no,
there'll be
I just
more
wondered if there was
funds.
any way like
To
something.
tag it.
We can't keep these little things earmarked, and the other thing is.
Not to earmark it,
Yeah.
not to earmark it,
Just to keep track.
but to keep track, and then maybe you'd know, oh, look, this department keeps getting these funds approved, and then they don't use them, and they
Their
go back.
language, yeah.
We gotta look at this, we study it harder, without having to go make a whole big report if it was somehow.
I think the report that gets run every month tells that story. Because all of these special articles are broken down by department.
Yes, they
And
are,
so
yeah.
you can see the departments that aren't using something. And the good thing that they do, a lot of communities do this, is it puts the annual town meeting month and year. So like, there's things here that are like, annual town meeting, 5/22. So you see it in there,
Yeah.
and so year over year, you see it. So I think that is a good way, but then we have to remember, if we do move it out of stabilization, or into stabilization, why we did it,
So
or who we did it for.
coming back to this actual list, I think, why don't we just go down and
Yeah,
say-
so we're gonna go down, I think let's try to not spend more than 10 or 15 minutes tonight on this.
Okay.
More, because let's identify things and maybe set people out on, okay, you go figure this out. Cause otherwise, we're just gonna end up with a lot of speculation.
Right.
When what we really need in a lot of these cases is just more research.
Information?
So, but starting off with town hall repairs and maintenance, 43,100 as of April.
I'm talking to Jim tomorrow, and we'll just, I'll see if he's got any lists or anything.
I think we should carry that forward.
I do too.
There's a lot to be done. I am really surprised there's that much left, because we
That
already
me
did
too.
painting.
I
And a
wanna
couple
know,
other
where- 'cause it
things.
was only like 60 to start with.
Yeah, I think it was, well, that's what she was
49.
asking.
49.6, and the painting had to cost more than $6,500.
That's what I thought, maybe it didn't, yeah, it could have been the whole paint job. Anyways,
Right,
Roger and Jim are gonna work on that
Okay.
43,100 for town hall repairs and maintenance.
and then the, open space town share, I don't know if that's, like, it's coming to a close, but we still have the final meeting, finishing
I
the final
assume that's gonna go
report,
to
and
BRPC.
I'm assuming so.
I would, if we haven't paid it, if you had to ask me right now, I'd carry it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
The
How much was it?
3,000, which was the whole town share of the grant, of paying for the grant. Which is, if I had to guess, we pay at the end. once it's
Yeah,
completed.
that's exactly what I think too.
The 512 for the shared HR manager, I think we just let that go.
Yep. I don't really understand how it ended up there at all, but let's just let it go.
I
But I
kind
can't
of
believe we
agree, I
didn't
thought we,
spend it.
oh, you know what it was? When we went to transfer two different amounts of money in 2023, we were transferring the 2021 article and the 2022 article, but we didn't know how much would be left in the 2022 article, so we made a guess. We're getting away from this.
Okay,
Remember,
got it.
15 minutes, 15
Right,
minutes.
All
Okay,
right.
15 minutes.
Police cruiser, yay, it came in under what they thought it would be.
Let's
Roll it over.
I will-
Not roll it over, let's
let it go.
let it go.
But double check with Brian.
I'll double check with Brian just to make sure
Yeah.
there's not like something that needs to be purchased.
Which one are you talking about now?
The
Police
cruiser,
cruiser.
2,900, we're hoping that it just came in under budget, there's an off chance that's still for outfitting, lighting or something else, but.
And we're pretty sure the police radios, which is only off by 8 cents, could probably move on
That
to.
could be,
Fire, you're gonna talk to the fire chief?
I'm gonna talk to the fire chief about the fire truck nozzles
And
and
hose.
the fire hose replacement, because those are getting.
Presumably the pagers,
That's very close,
Yeah.
I assume that's just,
that's done.
we can let that go,
And
$100.
probably the hydraulic rescue tools, cause it looks like most of it was spent.
Yeah, that looks like a let go.
What I'll
Yeah.
do is, I'll just double check, we'll put it as
Yeah.
a let go, but I'll verify all these with Sean.
So the Monterey School one is from 2018.
So the Monterey School one is, I asked the previous town administrator about this a number of times, and long story short, we still get little bills for the school, like electricity.
Electric bills, yeah.
Electric bills. And this more or less has been kept on the books to pay those electric bills. It probably should be in the operating budget and not a special article from 7 years ago.
I think our operating budget has more than enough to carry the $10 or whatever
I
it
mean,
is.
yeah,
for
98.
But what line in the operating budget?
that.
Town hall expense.
Probably town hall electricity, there is a public.
Town hall, it's a school.
Yeah.
There is a public,
Public street lighting.
public street
It's
lighting.
not the street, it's the building. Maybe next year,
No, maybe we could make like just a simple line item, $1,000 or whatever. I'll try and figure out what gets spent there.
well, actually, wait, here's an update, and this kind of blows to pieces the 10 to 15 minute thing, but I'm gonna get back to this. So,
He said it.
a few, this is important.
We're not
A few
objecting.
months ago, the board discussed and more or less agreed to move in the direction of selling the school. It took Donna a little while to put together, needed certain things from the school district and different letters and different communications. She finally got enough of what she needed, and more or less, we're ready to sell the school. Okay, it's not happening tomorrow, but we have, and this is like on the mid-range planning, we have kind of what we need to begin in that process of making an RFP and deciding if we want conditions on the sale and what those might look like. So maybe we just leave the school financing alone, even as poorly as it's done. If it's still, if we're not anywhere near selling it next budget, let's plan on putting it in the operating budget and getting rid of this special article.
Yeah, something may come up, that needs to be an invoice,
Right.
that may need to be dealt with. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
And we also wanna think about giving first option to the voters.
Yeah, I don't know what part of the process that is,
I
or is.
have no idea.
I know it doesn't necessarily need to go out to auction. Donna mentioned an RFP, like there's more like an RFP process. So people submit
what they're gonna do with it.
what they're gonna do with it and how much money they're gonna pay. I think.
Interesting.
She's gonna need to walk us through the whole process, but
Okay.
she believes that based on what the select boards of the past have done and what the school committee has done, the town can basically sell the building without, I don't even think really going back to town meeting again.
Could we figure out how to do it as affordable housing and sell it to somebody?
We already looked into that.
There.
I mean, I'm not saying it's an absolute moot point, but we asked Construct to take a look and they weren't interested, I think, because that would be one unit.
Yeah.
But they said the lot was too small.
The lot and the parking, so,
But we could sell it and take the money and apply that to doing housing somewhere. Like,
so that's a little update on the school, I would say because of that kind of impending possible sale, let's not touch it. Okay, the storm damage special article, that needs to go.
Yep,
It never should have been a special article.
and we think that
What was
20,
that?
The storm damage in Bidwell Park,
Oh, yeah.
it was initially voted on at a special town meeting, it pretty explicitly transferring the money into the operating budget. And it somehow became a special article, and then despite the board trying to say the project was done last year, it still got carried forward. So it was a couple of things. That's gonna go, Roger's gonna find out why the 20,000 still seems to be on the books.
Cause that's supposed to have been put into stabilization.
Green Park ball field
can go away.
can pretty much go, it's just a few $100.
Yep, Tom Mincy is trying to spend that down.
Okay,
He has something he's gonna spend that on for the baseball field,
like
Okay.
bases.
something like
Okay.
that.
He bought these, I thought he bought bases last year.
Yeah, he's I think buying some dirt or sand or something for the infield.
Well, how about this, if it's not spent down by the end of the year, we let it go.
Right.
Yep.
29,000 for community, let's jump back a little bit, so the 2023 weed control at Lake Garfield, that's getting spent down as we speak.
I just got a $17,000 invoice for that.
Okay,
Yeah, it should be, I mean, Mike said he thought it would be zeroed out, so.
and retiree health is getting spent down as we speak, so we come down to probably the biggest, most controversial one, which is just this 29,000 for the community center outdoor lighting, which, here's my only reasons I wouldn't just say right away, just let it go right now. The lighting is still a little bit subpar, but we're also have been doing this project for over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if there was a plan to actually improve the lighting, either where the community garden is or the path to the community center, let's do it and spend some amount of money. But if the plan is just to wait until the pavilion may be built, then let's let the money go. It doesn't belong here.
I'm inclined to, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it roll into free cash and remembering and trying to roll it into stabilization, so it would be there against any overages past the ARPA monies when they go forward with the pavilion, but I agree.
Their timeframe for the pavilion is, I think, springtime,
Right.
based on grants.
Next spring.
Spring.
Yeah, so, but, like, if and when we need free cash for a pavilion, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not, this money doesn't help being here.
Right, because if
Agree.
it's not spent on lighting, it's moot, so let's let it roll into free cash, and it's not like we're gonna forget it was there.
Mickey,
Can I just make a comment, it's about lighting in general, so depending on the street lighting for lighting is, I'm gonna just say it's a joke. I left the library the other night, it was like 10 o'clock, which meant the lights, the library lights were off, but the street light was on. I could hardly see my car, and I thought, am I gonna really see my car and get to it? I mean, it's that bad
at the library or the community center?
at the library. So I'm just saying that depending on street
Where
lighting,
was your car?
in the parking lot,
In the library.
in the library parking lot, I'm driving like,
It's still like.
I don't know how your father finds his truck because it's around the corner, mine was, facing the
isn't
store.
there lighting?
There's a
There's
light
a street
right
light
there,
right there.
there's a street light right there, but go there sometime when the library is closed, and it's really dark.
Well, there was the flagpole lighting, but is that shut off now?
No, that's on, but it just faces the flag, and it could have been facing the opposite way.
Sometimes
because
you
it
gotta
moves
wait,
around the
like,
wind.
my trick with that is, it takes your eyes, as you get older, it takes your eyes a little longer to adjust to change the
I
lighting.
had my lights fixed, so they're better now, I can see.
But but it's all
No,
about, when you
really.
come out of a brightly lit place into a dark place, like the other day, I went from being out in the garden and I went down immediately to the basement. Let's just say I, even with the lights on in the basement, I had to stand there for like 45 seconds before I could see to walk safely in my own basement. So I'm just saying, sometimes you have to wait a minute till your eyes adjust, and then there's plenty of light. It's just, your eyes are adjusted to a much brighter setting.
That still makes it unsafe.
Well, does
Anyway, I'm
does
just
the
saying
library have
that.
its own lighting project? Are you saying that you?
No,
need
no, no, I'm
$25
not
to-
saying that. I'm just saying that the community center is going to need more lighting in their parking lot. You can't depend on the street lighting.
Right.
You know, the light by the end of the road, that's one thing.
Well,
I think that was just to help people find the driveway.
Yeah.
Not to help them in the.
Here's where I'm at with the lighting. It's a 3-year-old project, but it hasn't just sat dormant for 3 years.
No, we've been working on it.
There was a invitation to bid, an RFP, and then the National Grid solution, and a lot of different things. So where I'm at is if between now and July, or whenever we need to make these carry forwards, and it might be July 15th or something, they come up with a plan about increasing the lighting, I'm all for it. It is 100% a safety issue.
Right.
The moment someone slips and falls on a branch because there weren't lights, we have a problem. I'm all for it, but let's talk about lighting the property as it exists now and not carrying it forward indefinitely for future building that doesn't exist. That's never what, that's not what it was voted on about. It was voted on about the existing property. So if we talk to Lori and RJ and we say, if you have a legitimate lighting project that you'd like to do, we can carry forward some or all of these funds depending on what we can figure out within the next month. But we're not carrying it forward for an eventual pavilion. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's just that the people that use that are not young either, so.
Yeah, I get it.
Does that pretty much settle for now?
I agree with you, the town voted on it when there was no pavilion, so using the money for when there is a pavilion is stretching it, isn't it?
It is. I think it's definitely
I
stretching.
think you gotta stay,
So, state for its intended use.
Right.
So, if we have, in the next couple of weeks, and maybe Roger, when you reach out to these people, you can, next time you talk to Eric, talk about exactly what kind of the carry forward process he wants to see, but it does seem like at the end of the day, we are gonna be carrying forward pretty little. And then what I'll ask Susan and Frank to do, and Roger, if you have time, is reviewing just the April and month-end reports. But don't lose your mind the first time that you see an account pulled from zero from here and there's money where it shouldn't be. Be patient, because also some of these can be rectified fairly easily.
Right.
But if you can set aside an hour or 2 or 3, it'd probably be really helpful, because if we can catch things now, it's probably a lot easier than down the road. And it also helps to be, I think, really like creative and intuitive. So if you can think, okay, and it depends how deep you wanna go into it, but okay, we've had trouble paying the lawn mowing at the cemetery for the past couple of years, and I noticed the lawn mowing for the cemetery hasn't been pulled. If you can catch things like that, but also remember, we're talking about April end reports, with May is not out yet and probably won't be for a little while.
I can run reports anyway and send them to you.
Yeah.
I can run that.
For May end?
I'll just run it for
Like
whatever week
mid-May.
whatever week we're in
Yeah.
right now, and just run it.
Okay.
Gives you everything.
That would be helpful, I really think, it's one of those things that probably can't be done enough.
Yeah. It's just if another set of eyes to catch ours.
Yeah. And then we can talk about the long-term solution, because I don't think it's board members going through the fine tooth comb. I think I don't think that's the long-term solution for these
Errors.
issues.
Well, the question is, what is a long-term solution? Because human beings make errors, and we would hope that the accountant would be finding them, but that, if that
There's-
was rectifiable, it would be right.
Yeah, I mean, I think my struggle is when we're just talking about, not various emails and different things, right? We're talking about a town meeting warrant,
Oh, yeah, I guess.
maybe a special town meeting warrant, and basically, as far as I'm concerned, the financial team, that needs to be their Bible, the town meeting minutes, because that is what the town has voted on. And there's only the operating budget and then maybe 15, 20 money articles. It's not that many
Right, it's not a
to
lot.
keep track of.
And at a special town meeting, it's usually fewer than 5.
Alright, I'm gonna follow up on old business, I don't think this should take too long. Fiber,
I wish you would say that.
Fiber Connect, Donna's looking into it. If they wanna put it on the right of way, which I don't think they wanna do, it could be as simple as a select board vote. If they need an easement, it probably needs a town meeting vote to put their equipment there on town property.
An easement versus what was the other option?
A right of way.
Okay.
So probably similar to when poles are placed in the town right of way,
Mhm.
it could just be a select board vote. But if someone wants to basically lease or use indefinitely a piece of town property, then there needs to be an easement, that's gotta get town meeting approval.
So do we wanna write him a quick letter saying?
I don't know yet,
these are the options?
she
She's gonna
hasn't
check it.
followed up with
Okay.
me 100%.
Alright,
Wait,
But we should
where is this
probably-
equipment going?
If you go past the town public beach, you take a right onto Sylvan Road, where Tyringham Road used to go up on the left.
Yep.
Right there, in the middle of the woods, not visible from Tyringham Road, essentially, there's already some kind of a telephone box there.
Verizon has stuff there already.
Oh.
Verizon actually has a piece of property cut out. It's theirs.
So I feel like we should at least reach out to Adam and give him a heads up.
Did he ever give you the draft easement?
No.
Okay, let's wait till he gives us the draft easement.
Okay.
And see what Donna says, I'm gonna follow up with her. It was probably the type of thing, if I emailed this morning and said, hey, can you get me something by 6, I probably would have gotten it, but I didn't feel like it was super
Not
pressing.
Right,
Because it sounds like it's probably gonna, based on what her preliminary reaction, which she emailed, it's probably gonna be a November thing, not a right now thing.
okay.
And Adam probably knows that, because they got an easement in Egremont, they probably went to town meeting as well.
Right, okay.
I think. I mean, it kinda makes sense, usually we can't sell by easement things without going to town meeting. Retirement benefit funding, I still think that there's 30,000 missing. I think, Roger, are you pretty much on the same page as me?
Yeah, I am, but I'm still questioning that one line.
No, don't question it.
I know what you were saying,
So
but
a
I just
town,
wonder if somebody else interpreted that way.
they might have, but it's wrong. So a town clerk at the time, kept or any other sum in the town meeting minutes.
Mhm.
So it said to transfer the sum of 139,000 plus any interest accrued or any other sum from the general stabilization to OPEB. As far as I'm concerned, that's in the warrant, or any other sum, or any other action relative thereto. When you vote at town meeting, you are
You're supposed to
voting
take it out.
on the sum, you're deleting or any other sum, you're deleting or taking any other action.
And the result is that they took out any other sum?
They took an extra 30.
I think they did the annual sum, because the money, there was 30,000 that was going from free cash into stabilization
That
Right.
same town meeting.
at that same point, so that would have been any other sum.
So I hate to be picky, but which town clerk was this?
I think this was
No,
2022.
was it?
It was,
Yeah, 2022,
So, Walker, okay.
I think it was.
so, and this has been, it wasn't just that, because we, for 2 years in a row, took $30,000. Everyone dropped the ball here, because we
It was
took
a mess.
30,000, the select board signed the warrant, and the finance committee reviewed it, and the town administrator drafted it, that said, put money into special stabilization, when we, in the same meeting, created OPEB.
So the bottom line is, there are a series of errors. The question is, are we gonna get it straightened out now?
Yes, but what I would love to do and have within the next couple of weeks, just so everyone knows that there's a finish line on this. And what I want out of this is to have the article that needs to go on in November in the next couple of weeks. I mean, we don't need to wait till October.
No, we don't, and now when it's clear, we should draft it while we remember what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, but my sense is that the financial team still doesn't see what I'm seeing.
I have that sense too, the question is what we need to do to get them, I mean, I didn't talk to them, but given the situation and how it's been
Roger's
year
gonna
after
work
year.
I meet with Eric every week, so I'll
Okay.
talk to Eric tomorrow on Wednesday.
So this is
tomorrow.
gonna sound like a strange thing to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Okay.
After you have that conversation with him.
Yeah.
I recommend two things.
Yeah.
One or the other, or possibly both. You follow up that verbal conversation.
Yeah.
With an email confirmation, and you ask, or you ask him to do that.
Mhm.
Because if he has to track what he understands you to have said,
Mhm.
you may get better clarity on whether he actually understood what you meant him to understand. But we need something in writing
Right.
about that communication, so everything can be held accountable.
Well, I think, and I kind of have it covered, cause I've been emailing everyone, not the select board, but Eric, the financial team,
Mhm.
and Roger, this whole time.
Right,
I realized, I think it was the day of, I realized in the middle of town meeting when I was looking at the
Right,
milfoil numbers, and I think I emailed the same day, and since then, Eric, has worked with us, and he's seen, oh, there is 30,000 in the wrong place, it's just, he hasn't quite seen that there's 60 in the wrong place, and he will, Roger's gonna,
Yeah, we'll get it figured out.
we'll get it
but you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure.
There is
that-
an email chain, the problem is, everyone was asleep at the wheel. I don't know any other way to say it, because in the same town meeting.
Right.
That we created OPEB.
And I was part of at least one of these, and I
Well,
dropped it.
You
too,
weren't
so-
part of this one,
No.
because this was 2022, this is just
Okay.
before you got elected. In the same town meeting, we create OPEB, and then we transfer all the money from the special stabilization to OPEB. And then, in another article, we put money into special stabilization. The following year, we put money into special stabilization. The following year, which was this year, we put money in special stabilization. So how many people are involved that should have caught that?
We actually put money in the stabilization, then paid out of free
Right.
cash for retirement
I know.
benefit.
It's kinda silly. We gotta make sure it doesn't happen
So-
again,
so-
please.
So I can follow up, I'll
Okay.
do what you suggest, there was a second part that you said there too.
Well, it was one or the other,
Yeah, I
either you have to do the follow-up email, or you have to get him to do the follow-up email, and the advantage of that one is that you'll get clarity on whether he actually understood what you said, right?
Nikki?
So, I was looking at the numbers after the last week's meeting, and I did see how that went, but actually, to give you a little bit of, that $30,000 was an article here, and the OPEB money was not next to it.
Yeah, it was way down below.
It was way over there
Yeah.
on another page, and, well, you would have forgotten what, what it was about. But my thought is, so, when I was looking at it, I saw that you were taking getting $30,000 to put into this savings account, and you wanna build up something like 500, so you can always pay out of that.
Mhm.
And up until this year, so for 3 years in a row, we also took the amount needed for the retirees out of free cash. And I think that is a very good way to handle it, because according to my little calculations here, so like in about 6 years, you might be able to
Mhm.
just stick with the
Yeah,
OPEB.
that's kind of the plan.
Slight problem.
Yeah.
The way you explain it is nice and simple, but in previous years, we had paid it out of the special stabilization. So it was almost like we were flipping a coin to see what we were paying. And another slight complication, not this year, but the year before, the master budget worksheet that we use all year from December until May had that 18,000 coming out of the special stabilization.
Right.
It got put on the warrant as free cash, so we ended up short $18,000, or not short, because we had planned to leave 30. But thankfully, we planned to leave 30, because then 18 came out of free cash that we weren't planning for. Because it showed in the master budget worksheet from December until May, it was getting paid out of this stabilization account. It got put on the town meeting warrant as coming out of free cash. it's really good now that there's, people understand what's going on, so I think you're right, we'll probably,
Yeah, I mean,
Eric's
so if
recommendation,
you actually, let's say you're gonna be spending $45,000 for like 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
You know, and I was using just like 5% interest, I don't know where the money is, you know, that's just what you can get on a CD right now. I don't know where that money is invested, how much it actually grows or anything else, so it's just a number I used. But I was just did it because I was curious about it, and so I really thought just, you know, if you put $30,000 into the OPEB, and then you take the other out of free cash, in a few years you'll be all set, it'll be nice.
And that is the plan.
well,
That's what was supposed to be happening.
You know, I wanted to see if it actually worked.
we're gonna get the audit, or to help us figure out. And speaking of, let's just dive right into the audit, a little bit out of
Okay.
order, but
Okay,
we have some difficult news,
no,
no?
No.
We have good news?
actually, I have good news. So I went onto the Mass Municipal Association's website, found three companies.
Mhm.
Because we had been talking about, you know, looking at someone, we hadn't really had any conversations, what's going on with Tom Scanlon, where is he? And I reached out, I heard back from one. I had a conversation with a person from a company called Markham, which was up in New Hampshire, but they have an office in Greenfield. And after talking with him and giving him what our numbers are for our budget, he, you know, went on to say that they're having to pay a lot of money for staff now. And so we'd probably be with him about 2.5 times what we're paying right now. I was like, oh, okay. And he said, basically, call me back if you think it's worthwhile. And then I got a call from, I get an email from another company called Clifton Larson Allen. And I actually have a meeting set up for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I had kind of gone through my emails and searched on Scanlon and have found regular communications with Scanlon going all the way up through until March 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to Tom Scanlon and just sent him an email and said, hi, I'm the new town administrator. Just wondered if we could touch base and see where we are. So right now, we are about 2 weeks out from the draft of the 2023, receiving the 2023 audit.
Mm-hmm.
He said everything's going well. He said he'll send a draft, and then, you know, if you want to have a conversation with him, we can schedule that. And then it'll get finalized, and then, you know, he mentions about sending an engagement letter for next year, but I haven't seen anything about that. And he says a few years ago, it was kind of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
He says now, working with Eric and Sarah, it's much better.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole process of getting it done and the audit and our financial, though, our way we are financially is way better than it's been in a long time. So I told him, I said, I'm reaching out because nobody knows where you are or what's going on. And they even said, Mari down in New Marlboro's tried to call you and she's like, has no idea what's going on. And he's like, well, you know, we've been playing a little phone tag. So I was like, okay. So that's kind of where we are. I didn't think it's bad news. I asked about 2022 and he was like, yeah, it was decided to skip 2022. But I think, you know, I was talking to Susan about figuring out, having a conversation with him after we get the 2023 results, seeing what it might take to go back and see if there's any kind of what it might take and what its timing is and how much it might cost. And maybe there's something we can do to come back and get that done for 2022. So,
I mean, if he could actually put it on his calendar and get it done
Yeah.
for the same price, we could, in November, we could maybe take some of the free cash and allocate it to that, so we can have the 3 years and have the possibility of grants or bonds or whatever it is we
Yeah.
need, we'd be up to date and we wouldn't have that missing year.
so I got off the phone. I felt pretty optimistic about it. You know, I was expecting not to hear back from them, but I was surprised at actually the amount of communication that had been going on.
Well, I get worried when we said we're gonna skip a year and everything, so.
Yeah.
What, yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Now, here's my question. Is he gonna catch in his 2023 audit, the OPEB money?
Well, we'll know when we see it, and that will be very telling, won't it? I mean, that will tell us how much detail there
Well,
was.
he should, so, let's see, that's very good.
I asked him about, because I also asked about a management letter, because there's one management letter missing from 2021, which it's not on the website. I also went and cleaned up the website and reorganized it so that the 2019, the 2020, and the 2021 audits are there. But I think the 21 management letter was missing, and I asked him about that, so.
And the audits are on our website.
Yeah, if you go to the accountant,
Mhm.
it's on the left-hand side, the audits are there.
Oh, speaking of, the treasurer contract is up at the end of June. So in the next couple of weeks, we can start working on that, not tonight, we're talking financials. One thing I'd really like to do from the treasurer contract is remove the 7.5 hour average that has been in there for years, and it was a sticking point for me last year, and it's a sticking point again for me this year, and I don't know if it's a matter of paying more money. In the future, obviously we can't change this fiscal year, but if it's a matter of paying more money the following year, I think that's fine, but I think I really want the job to be done thoroughly and not be limited by amount of time.
So my question is, like, I can't remember, what was her reason for sticking it last year, for not yielding on
I wasn't involved in negotiations,
it? Okay,
but I think the whole gist of it is if you're a contracted service that just has a list of duties, period,
it could be infinite, right, yeah.
then the town expect those lists of duties to be done in a timely manner. Now, just for instance, our accountant contract is that way. And it's just a flat rate, and there's a list of duties, and duties that are regularly expected of an accountant in Massachusetts, and that's it.
So my question is though, like, I remember this conversation last year, and my thought was, well, she must feel like she's going well over that. Are we getting bills for the well over that? Because if we're not, then why is it a sticking point?
It's a sticking point for me.
For her, you wanted it
It's a
out
sticking
and
point
she
for
didn't
her
want it
because
out.
when things don't get done, we can be told 7.5 hours, and that happened recently.
That's what I was asking.
Yes,
Did
and
that
that's,
happen?
yes.
So it's not like she's billing us for the overage, she's just not
Yes.
doing work that goes beyond that.
Yeah, she had someone call her from town and several times and make demands about things.
Well, I think that the issue is she's not really supposed to be responsive to anyone but you.
Well, yes, that's fair enough, but there are things like debt service and OPEB, so the treasurer is the OPEB trustee.
Right,
The treasurer is the OPEB trustee, the only trustee of OPEB. And OPEB's been like, it got lost in the wind.
right.
So,
I would agree, the question is, I guess what I'm saying is, I see her point.
mhm.
If the only issue has been somebody that wasn't supposed to be regularly communicating with her.
No, that's not the only
communicating with-
issue.
If that's not the only issue, then I guess the issue is we have a contracted amount. It has that hourly thing, but what she's saying is, I'm just not doing anything more than that, rather than I'm billing you for the additional hour.
It doesn't even have a limit, by the way. I mean, it's not a 7.5 hour limit, it says for an average of 7.5 hours a week. It doesn't say at a maximum of 7.5 hours a week. I mean, that I could almost work with, because now we're talking real numbers here. To say in the middle of a contract, here's your list of duties, here's how much you're getting paid, and you're doing it for an average of 7.5 hours a week, what does that mean? If we need 8 hours this week or 9 hours this week. And my other question is, I assume that her people, including her, are putting in billable hours toward Monterey, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know, we've all
You
probably,
get a flat fee.
well, I know we have a flat
It's
fee,
an invoice.
we have a flat fee, but you've probably, I think KP does this, even when we had a flat fee with KP, the lawyers who are sometimes doing an hourly rate can put in Monterey 2 hours, here's what I did, even if they're not actually billing that time. So I don't know if she's keeping a record of that or not. I don't mind if we have an agreement, that's even on an hourly basis or something. Like, if we wanna pay hourly and it's in the ballpark, and she feels like that's what's fairly compensating her, I'm all good with that. But if we're gonna have an OPEB trustee,
We wanna
They
make, right.
you have to trust
Mhm.
the OPEB trustee. If we're gonna have this debt pay downs,
Right.
you know, year after year fumbling the ball, that's my problem, and you could tell me 25 different reasons why there's mistakes, and I make mistakes, we all make mistakes. But the last thing, when we pay the money that we do for good services, I don't wanna hear that we're not paying enough for the job to get done well. If it's
can't disagree with
If it's an
anything you
issue of
said.
paying, or maybe we need to renegotiate. I've been happier with town council from when we switched from a flat fee agreement to an hourly agreement. If that's what we need to do, let's talk about it, what are the numbers? But let's ditch this average of a 7.5 hour thing, it's not.
Followed
not
by, we can't do
good.
that because we ran out of hours, like,
So, Frank, did you have any thoughts or?
I think, you keep saying it's your problem, I think you have a legitimate
Yeah.
concern. It's not, your concern is about having the excuse about the hours not getting something done. And I understand what you're saying, because I was listening, but I don't think it's your concern that you have with the contract. Comes back and bites you.
Well, so let's say this, as we move forward and on a future agenda pretty soon, we'll start talking about treasurer contract negotiation. I'm open to, and I'm not sure what we're all up for, I'm open to being creative and not just kind of redoing the same thing, whether it's, I'm a little bit open to hourly, I'm open to more money in a following fiscal year, but I'm just not gonna, I don't wanna keep the status quo, because I don't really feel like it's fair to everyone involved.
and I think it's worth explaining what the issue is to her and seeing what her response is.
Mhm.
Like, it might be that she's like, oh, you mean you're open, she might be like, you're open to hourly, that would be
Yeah.
great. Or, I don't know, we don't know what she'll say, because
Yeah.
we're not really sure how the subject was broached previously.
Well, but I can tell you, I mean, there's a reason. It's not rocket science if someone wants to keep that 7.5 hour thing in a company. It's kind of obvious why you wanna keep that in there, right?
Because you wanna be able to calculate how many hours of work you have for the number of staff you
Yeah.
have for a week.
To make sure that you're breaking even and making money,
Right.
but, like, it's not fair to the town, because also we paid pretty good money for a lot of things, including treasurer services. And we'd probably pay even better money if it meant not having board members have to audit the books all the time. So, and to get some of these things that like are consistent headaches year after year after year, the retirement, the debt service.
Paying it done so it was reliably done would be a benefit.
Yes. So, and I think it would be money well spent, potentially, so.
And being clear with her of how we view that might be a first step, like,
Well, in the next couple of weeks, we'll get into that.
okay.
Admin assistant. job description.
I sent the job description, I did made a few changes to it, sent it to Mary, she came back, said it was good, and now she wants to know how she can help. She's asking, should she post and recruit? Should the resumes go to her, or should the resumes go to me? Those kind of questions.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if she wants to post and recruit, no problem.
How's our budget with her?
I
for the
think it's
year?
actually pretty good. We still have lots of, like 11 grand left in there or something like that.
The TA search didn't end up costing nearly what I
What we
think
thought it
what a
would.
normal
Right.
TA search costs.
I would hand it off to her,
Yeah.
Rocky's got his hands full.
That's how I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We try to get some things off his plate, plus we're closing the year out.
Yeah.
We need more eyes on the general ledger.
Right,
And
I'll-
I mean, based on previous searches, it's not like we had a host of qualified applicants.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
let's hope there are more than we expect, but
okay, I'll reach back out to her and
Okay.
point it, push in that direction.
We should try to get an ad in something in the Monterey News. I mean, it just came out, but for next month.
it wouldn't be bad to have it.
Yeah, we're pretty much cleaning out those line items anyway, so.
Yeah.
July is when we would have to start, so.
Fuel storage?
Fuel, nothing yet, I need answers from people in town before I can follow up with Donna, that's in the works, and probably the board will never have to deal anything with it.
Okay.
It's just a nightmare, as you saw, about like different types of fuel and everything, so.
By the way, I stopped by and chatted with Chris today, and I was pretty impressed. He's gotten a lot of the back room cleaned out. He said he's done a ton of work in cleaning up the, electronic files. He's not quite there yet, he's still working on that. And after that, he'll start working on the boards and commissions list and the other lists, but he's making significant headway. Which is a big deal.
That's good. One thing that we're looking for before we send out the letter to our reps is the certified town meeting minutes. I don't know if that's already.
You know, ironically, when I was looking at the minutes for tonight,
Yeah.
I also,
They're on the
he's
website.
already gone, but pardon?
They're on the website.
I emailed him and asked
Okay.
when they'd be ready.
Yeah.
So, cause I didn't know about that till after.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just wanted to let
That's
you know I
good.
had that
That's great,
conversation with
yeah.
him.
Yeah, he's been really working hard.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Two things I wanted to raise.
Yeah.
You want me to wait or do it now?
Yeah, we'll do unanticipated business / TA items.
So for the fall SDM warrant, in addition to putting the senior tax abatement on there, because we know we have to, we also have to get a recycling contract on there, so I
think that's
did
what
have a
In my notes.
conversation with Donna, and that's absolutely the case. That we have to put it on there, so, and it's not because of the length of our term, it's just a standard thing that's in
About contract.
MGL, yeah.
I have it in my folder, November town meeting.
Great, okay. The last thing, and this is kind of a goofy thing, but the last 2 minutes, like the two for tonight,
Yeah.
you're doing all the like items in bold as well as our decisions in bold.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna put a plea out to not do that,
okay.
to go back to the, like, using bullets or numbering for the
Yeah.
items
Can I show
and
you why?
save the bold for the.
Can I show you why I got rid
decisions?
of the numbers?
Sure.
I mean, there's probably a solution, but I just wanna show you.
Oh, cause it ends up renumbering them when you.
No, it
post
doesn't, it's horrible, you have to see this. Yeah, this one might not do it, but, nope, that one actually worked out, of course,
Okay.
I'll show you actually worked out.
And it's intermittent because it doesn't, and that one worked out, okay.
That one worked out. I'll show, there's a pretty simple explanation of why I got away from that, and also a pretty,
Okay.
probably, hopefully a simple explanation of why I can go back to it, and I don't know why.
Right,
Earlier when
there's
I was
all the
like-
ones you picked,
Yeah, one,
okay.
one.
So one
One.
option would be don't use the number, just use a bullet. Then if it numbers them, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But
I'll redo it.
I don't think it's
Okay.
necessary for you to redo
Yeah.
it. Like, I don't, it doesn't
Well, I'm not
bother
gonna
me
redo the ones that
usually
we
there's-
posted.
Right,
But I will start doing it differently.
You're gonna hate me.
why?
You just wait.
No, so the
but you-
issue for me is that, like, the
Yeah,
whole
he's going
point,
1-1-1.
right, that's so annoying.
What's wrong with this stupid website?
I don't know.
So
But
my
it-
issue
it-
is-
It sees like it sees a carriage return or like a paragraph.
And it starts
or something,
numbering.
or page ending, so it starts.
But it can be perfect in Word, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you copy into here, 1, 1, 1, 1,
I'm
1.
here to tell you that going back and forth between any two platforms with formatting, just
Well, I'm
freaking
not gonna
shoot
put
yourself
minutes,
now.
I'm not gonna put minutes, type minutes into Civic Plus.
I don't blame you, I'm just telling you that going back and forth between platforms is usually the author of this.
Sometimes you can put it into into Notepad and it cleans it up.
Oh.
And then you put it in, but it takes away, but then you have to
Then you do
manually
something
go.
else.
You have to manually go in.
I'll do something different.
So my issue is that at the end of the day, it's about how easy is it to go back and find
Yeah.
whatever you needed to find. And if everything is bolded, the bolding becomes not useful. And if everything is numbered, the same number, then you can't refer to it. So ideally, what you want is for it to be simple to go down and go, this is an agenda item, agenda item, decision, agenda item, decision. I don't really care how that's achieved. I don't even care if it's completely consistent from one set of minutes to another. I just care that within a set of minutes,
Mhm.
I can easily differentiate that, so when I go back to look at it, it's clear what happened.
Yeah.
Because you're usually trying to find something.
What about, maybe I'll try underlining.
Okay.
No, but I see your point, it did bother me, but I was losing my mind with all these 1-1-1-1-1s, and
Yeah.
it's horrible,
Yeah.
and,
You could even do all, like, an agenda item that has the first two words all capped, or like some, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. At the end of the day, it's not worth killing yourself
point
over.
taken. Alright, town administrators?
So I have a few things.
Yeah.
One, I had a citizen come in today and ask for, to have an item put on an agenda.
Mhm.
They weren't interested in having, because I suggested, well, you could always come in and talk to the select board about it, and the citizens' comments and questions.
Mhm.
And they're like, no, I don't want to be limited to what I can say.
Okay,
So
so that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So
it's
only-
about Cronk Road.
Yeah, but only just as a point of clarity for when people come in the future. Citizens, officials, anyone can absolutely request an agenda item, but
That's what I told them.
board members put items on the agenda, and the chair moderates the discussion regardless of if it's an agenda item or not, but in any case, continue, sorry for that.
That's all right, and that's what I told them.
Yeah.
I said that I can bring it up, I don't know how they would want to move forward because they set the agenda.
Yeah.
And, but I can talk to them and ask them, because her concern, it's Karen Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Her concern is the road itself, and the way that the road has been developing, it's getting really wide. There's no, you know, sides to it anymore. It's really difficult to walk down it. There's kids that are riding on it. She thinks it's a safety issue, a construction issue. She has all these things that she wants to talk about.
Wider, be safer,
There's no you know, like on,
there's no verge.
well, you know, on like a paved road, you've got a white line that tells you where you can
Where you're
walk.
supposed to be, right?
And
So
there's nothing
let's-
there, so.
Because we are a little bit slower, we've been meeting weekly for 2 weeks now, maybe next Tuesday at 6, she can come in and we can hear her concerns.
But not as an agenda item, just as
No, agenda item, sure.
as an agenda item?
I mean, it doesn't have to be, I mean,
I don't have a problem with that.
She would.
what's that, Frank?
I don't have a problem putting it on an agenda item if they wanna come and talk about Concord Road.
Yeah, no, I have no problem too, I wanted to clarify from the outset that citizens have no right to put something on the agenda, and frankly, technically, if you wanna get legal about it, they have no right to speak at a select board meeting.
Correct.
But we do emphasize
Yeah.
citizen participation and appreciate it, so.
Yeah, I just-
Could I call?
She also thought that maybe Jim or Brian should be involved in the conversation as well, because it's about the road itself and its construction or maintenance, and also safety of the individuals, like the kids that are on the road.
I think the difficult thing here too is, I think in many situations, it actually is much better dealt with not as a board item. You can have more productive back and forth with different department heads,
Like having a meeting around a table.
individually or in a kind of an informal meeting.
Mhm.
However, if a citizen is insistent that that's what they want, it might be the best route forward.
Can I propose that one possibility would be to reach out to, maybe reach out to Jim and see if he'd be open to having a meeting with you and Karen and he to talk about the road and her concerns, so that he doesn't necessarily have to commit to anything, he can just have that conversation and listen to her concerns.
Mhm.
And then he has the opportunity to think about them and come to us to say, yeah, I think this is something we could do, you know what I mean?
I could try and do that first, or you
I
can do the
think-
agenda item, whichever.
It actually
whichever you
makes
wanna do.
so much more sense, Roger, and thank you for bringing it up, Susan, because the way that I see it, the select board, the town administrator, hire a department head like Jim, because he does a very good job at what he does, and we think that, and we believe it. And we're not technically knowledgeable about grading roads and gravel mixes and width of roads and road maintenance like Jim is, so if I wanna do Jim's job, I would try to be a highway superintendent somewhere, but I don't want to. And he does a good job, and that's why we hired him, and
Yep.
we appreciate his work, so it probably makes a heck of a lot more sense for the conversation to begin between Jim and the resident. And then if for some reason it still feels like the situation would benefit from a select board meeting, we can go that route, but I don't think, I mean, I can't speak for myself, but I can only speak for myself, but I don't think we are experts on road maintenance and.
Yeah, I'll, like I said, I'll see Jim tomorrow,
Yeah.
and I'll bring it up with him, and then reach back out to her
Yeah.
and go from there.
And, you can tell her, it's not that we're not willing to meet with her, we
Yeah.
just thought it would be more productive
Yeah.
when she comes to us, if there's already been a conversation, so that the superintendent can have some time to think about ways of, responses and how he might meet her concern.
Yep, I'll do that.
I just quickly, I can tell you that, like, my road is way wider than it's ever been, and it keeps, and it's not just since Jim's been here, it's been, going wider and wider. Right? There used to be a place at the end of my lower driveway, I haven't been in and out driveway, and, I had to go down there and mow, now there's no lawn there, and I had, the daylilies are almost now in the road, it's like, and I, I know it's needed, but there were, gullies in some parts of drainage that is now no longer there because it's under the road. It's been moved over.
I have to say that I'm also on a dirt road, and I remember when we were first here, it was a little scary if there was a car coming the other way. And now it's actually possible to get past the other car without panicking or having to find a place where you could pull over to let the guy pulling the lawnmower by, right, because he was in a pickup, and so there's like,
Well, I mean,
or when
I
I'm
agree.
walking on the road with my dog, I don't have to worry about jumping into the bushes to
Right.
get away from the oncoming car who's going twice the speed limit.
I used to
So-
wait, if you saw a car coming down the hill, you would wait until the car came down, and then I could take my turn. And
Right.
There was nobody else up there. Luckily, there aren't that many cars that.
And happily, there's no giant turn on my road, so I didn't have to be afraid around going around a corner and finding an unexpected oncoming car.
Why don't we start with that, resolution, and
Yeah.
I can even reach out to Karen too and say, we're more than happy to have you at the select board, we just don't. Feel at this time, we feel it's more productive for you to speak to the.
Yeah, I'll talk to Jim and then reach out to her tomorrow and come up with that. Second is, so Jim goes around, cleaning up culverts, especially culverts that have been, blocked by, beaver activity. And so he was down on Sandusfield Road, right across from Cronk Road,
Right.
actually across the street, so on the downstream side of a culvert.
Yeah.
Because it was blocked up. And he got down in there and started working, and he got stuck. And so getting out of that area, he caused some damage. And he was causing this damage and caused the damage while Concom and DEP were down there at Cronk Road, I believe, having a conversation with Karen Allen.
Just that, for
So-
clarity, when you say he got stuck, he personally, as a human being, was stuck in a culvert?
No,
Or-
it's backhoe.
Okay,
No, so
okay,
he-
I just, I had a very bad image of
That would
this
be kinda
situation,
funny,
and then you're like, he just damaged,
No,
and
he
I'm like,
kinda,
"Ow," when they pulled him out, like, what happened?
drove the backhoe
Okay.
down there over the embankment to clean out the culvert
Okay.
and got the backhoe stuck.
Oh,
And then in getting himself out, he caused damage to the wetlands while Concom and DEP were there.
Oh my god.
What's the fallout?
So, here's the fallout. I actually found out about this today because I was meeting with Kim and Noel to do some updates on their website, and they brought it up to me. And Noel, Kim had said something to me, but I asked her to clarify it. And so, I'll just read what she said. We, being the Conservation Commission, will be issuing an enforcement order for wetland violations in a resource area and bordering vegetated wetlands, possibly more after I map the area out. Erosion control needs to be in place consisting of no less than wattles, straw bales, and silt fencing to protect the area from any stormwater runoff and further unpermitted impacts to the resource area. We should be contacted, Concom should be contacted when the erosion control is in place so we can do a site visit and update DEP. It might be a good idea to put on hold any similar work currently going on or planned until there is proper permitting. typically DEP does not allow further permitting with an open enforcement order. So I have to be talking to Jim about this tomorrow too. I saw him this morning, today about it after it happened.
Mhm.
So it couldn't have happened at a worse time.
It really can. Okay.
But anyway, so, that's that.
Do you know what something interesting? That part of Monterey used to be part of Fantasy.
Yeah, you were
We
saying
can
that.
give it back.
That whole area down
I still
I
love that.
might be able to clean out the culverts though.
I know.
there. Yeah, I know.
Well, from either, I mean, do we want flooded roads?
He just got stuck in there.
Yeah.
And that's gonna happen.
Because he said they have a blanket NOI to do it anyway,
Mhm.
something, so they have to go down and clean those out, but he just got stuck in.
But the question is like, why are they, if there's a blanket NOI, why are they doing this? Like, like.
Ridiculous.
The blanket NOI might say erosion control as necessary.
And he just damaged the.
Right, but obviously it was an accident, it was
Yeah.
not, he didn't intend to go
Yeah.
do that work, this was an accident.
Yeah.
So it just, it undermines my confidence in their,
Reasonableness.
yeah.
I mean, suppose you had an automobile accident and went in there and then you're trying to back out because you.
You're in
went over the
violation of the
And,
DEP rules,
and they're
I know.
gonna,
You
they're
might,
gonna take
because-
your license away or something because you,
Yeah,
and you can't have a drive until you.
here, I tell you what, maybe we should just stop maintaining it, let the beavers clog it up and then it'll flood the road and we'll say, well, you told us we couldn't do any work on it. So we didn't do any work on it.
So my next thing is that, I would suggest that for the executive session meeting next week, we create a new ID.
Okay.
Because the ID that we've been using is basically an ID that's out there.
Yeah.
So anybody can come into the meeting.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, another reason to
we can-
have,
well-
anoth reason to have
So-
Zoom
so
where we could have a waiting room.
Because,
we've done it before
yeah, it's just my
and block people.
security.
There's a way to do it.
We'd have to, I don't know how to do it on GoToMeeting, but
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it as we were doing, as it was coming across to figure out. Because if there's a way to just block people from coming
I
in,
think that there is,
that's fine, but
I mean, I think,
we'd have to be on top of it. I was just trying to make it easy so that, but it's up to
it's
you.
a good concern to raise.
Yeah. I can look into it and see.
The other thing we can do, oh wait, here's this, lock session,
What's it called?
Lock session.
lock session,
Block?
lock,
Block.
in the top left. I believe that,
I'll look it up and see what it does.
I believe that just does it, because even if we create a new one, we still have to post it out to the public.
Yeah, do you?
Yes,
You still-
because we
even
have to
if it's
go
in-
into
even if
open
it's
meeting,
Executive session.
we have to go into open meeting to vote to go into executive session.
Yeah, but that's why I was saying we do like a separate one. I think
Well, we
log
could
on.
create a different one while we're in the executive session, or have a phone call.
Right.
I mean, it's also possible, since the only point of that meeting is executive session, to not have a Zoom link on this.
I already posted the meeting via Zoom link.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
And, okay, that's fine, I'll look into that. The last thing, and I don't know if you wanna do it now, is I got the, I know we've always talked about who should sign for these things, but I got the Vadar Systems renewal.
Okay, what's it for?
That's for the renewal.
No, I mean, what's the amount?
I saw it, the amount is the amount that's actually in the budget. I remember looking this up,
Oh, so it's the right amount.
so it was the right amount.
That's a good sign.
Let me just, check where it was. It may have actually been on the email. No, I can't.
We can always do it.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure, we can do it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
I assume it's for July 1.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it's right here, hold on. CEO. The amount is for $7,230, which is what it was in the budget, so.
Always ready.
Alright. Is there any other unanticipated business
Nope.
or any other updates, Frank?
Yeah, I got, Sean has agreed to meet with me next week to talk about the lead contract. He raised in his email concerns about the length of the contract. I told him, that I would start working on it. Because Susan and I had talked to the lawyer about it that time we had a select board meeting about it. So hopefully, I don't know if it'll be by next Wednesday, but hopefully we can get together next week and start working on
And on a related but different topic, Roger and I met with Sean last Thursday and we're meeting again with him this Thursday. Sean and Chris have been working on outlining steps forward for the fire department. And we'll have, at the present, we don't have a lot of details, but we hope to have more details, after the meeting on Thursday. There's.
That's working on Manning, strictly around Manning.
Yes.
Well, around staffing, that's the driving issue, but also regarding how to move forward. Whether it, whether we should be working with other towns, which towns, what that would look like. Will it involve fire? Will it involve ambulance? Will it involve fire and ambulance? Is it moving towards a district? Is it moving towards something else? There are a lot of possibilities, but I can't tell you what they're envisioning because I don't know yet. I just know that it's complicated and driven by staffing, but it doesn't the answers aren't just coming from staffing. Because because of the bill, it may involve cooperative agreements or districting or what have you.
Okay.
Alright,
Do you feel like that sums it up?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely,
so if we can jump into minutes a little bit.
Yes.
I emailed mine, but.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do those next meeting.
You guys talk a lot.
Really?
It was a budget meeting too.
Good night.
Good night. I gotta say, the recent ones have been easy. I feel like all the ones I've had to do have been hellacious because they were like ones with lawyers present and
That's
interviews and,
This one was a.
oh my god.
I gotta get some better speakers, I can't hear very
What?
well. Yeah, exactly.
Alright, are we doing 514?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So.
there was concerns about, I left out any comment from Don Coburn about Susan and me, so Susan added something in.
I'll read it for you. After. Yep, after it says, a motion was made, seconded and carried to appoint Justin as chair of the board, I added, Don Coburn expressed his disappointment in Susan for not serving as chair. Susan acknowledged Justin's excellent work and attention to detail as chair and wholeheartedly supports his continued service.
Perfect.
Okay, and then
And I'm sorry about missing that.
it's,
I pointed out in the email with, my thoughts last night.
I had a comment on page 2 about, Michael and the Lake Garfield working group, because I felt like we did also mention that he needed to recuse himself from the Concom vote when he was presenting an application. So I added, when it helped coordinate the submission of applications to the Conservation Commission, though he should recuse himself from Conservation Commission decisions on applications he is helping to prepare. Because I thought that summarized.
I think it's good, so I kind of wrongfully assumed that we kind of put off the table off the bat, him voting on as a Concom.
Yeah, but it's not saying.
It's good to say it. I would almost just flip those two phrases with
Okay.
maybe a little more finesse, because the point being, okay, something comes from LGWG, he has to recuse himself from Concom, okay, but now he can participate as the agent from LGWG.
Go for it, if you have.
Do you know what I'm
do it.
saying?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that, I was just working with
Yeah.
what you had there without reworking the whole thing.
Yeah, I would just basically, Michael should recuse himself from Conservation Commission decisions on applications. LGWG is helping to prepare, but he could participate as an agent for the LGWG on those applications.
That works.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
just the order of, okay, you
I like
recuse
it.
yourself and then you participate in a different way.
Agreed. That was my only other comment.
Alright,
I'll let you finish.
that's all.
I move that we approve the minutes of 5/14/24 as amended.
I second the motion.
Alright, we'll roll call vote Frank,
Yes,
Susan,
Yes,
and Justin, yes, so those are approved. And, I think we can do 528 as well.
others present remotely.
I haven't read 528.
So my problem with 528 is I clicked the recording video twice, so we didn't record the meeting. It's super not important if there were other people present remotely, that's not a legal requirement, we've been doing it, I don't think there was anyone at that meeting. But I
Yeah,
can't,
there wasn't anybody on TV.
I
I
don't
don't
remember.
think so either. I don't think
So-
So just delete that one,
just delete that, here's the sticking point.
okay,
Time of adjournment, I meant to write it down, I was like, I'm gonna go clock out and then write the time that we adjourned, but what time did we adjourn last week?
Wait, let me look, I may have written it down.
It was like 7:50, wasn't it 7:55?
It was just about, I think it was just under
Nearly
2
eight,
hours.
yeah.
Yeah, just under 2 hours.
It was close, but no cigar. See if I can get back.
Cause that is usually something I forget to write down and then have to look at the video for.
I don't have anything that notes it.
My phone's turned off, cause when it turns on, it's gonna beep, 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 beep. There's a fire thing.
No, I thought I had written it down. I didn't.
Did Frank, did you say 7:55?
Yeah,
That sounds really
Yeah, it
good
was
to
something
me.
like that. It was
Yeah.
late.
Late depends on,
Yeah,
it was late. All this stuff's too late, at least the sun's still out.
Yeah.
I don't know. if it's a
so
good thing.
the only change I made was in the paragraph under transfer station contract.
Mhm.
I'd like it to read, Susan brought up that the current
Yeah.
5-year recycling contract term ends in July 2025 and is currently being renegotiated,
Mhm.
period. She noted that some towns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
I was just reading that for him.
Yeah,
I followed.
pretty minor
Okay,
stuff.
I will move that we approve the minutes of 5/28/24 as amended.
Second the motion,
Alright, well, roll call vote, Frank,
yes.
Susan,
Yes,
and Justin, yes, so those minutes are approved, and we'll do a 4-8 next week.
another one bites the dust. Sorry.
Okay, so just, we'll wrap up here. Everyone's gonna look at the general ledger, please, at your convenience. And we'll start next week on the treasurer contract. We'll probably okay the Vadar renewal, assuming that goes off without a hitch. And then I'll sign that GZA contract once finance committee approves the funds, if they do, which I assume they will, but we never know. And at this point, let's kind of focus on the financials, end of year, special article carry forwards. We have our assignments on that, mostly Roger is assigned to all of it. Any other
I
questions?
do have one other question, so I came up with the 2 inserts, my
Yes,
daughter's
it's,
doing some, well, my daughter I can't believe I didn't ask her to do this to begin with, I just started asking her. She got gorgeous images, she did an amazing layout, I don't have it yet because she was still working as I walked out the door, but it looked very smart. The one issue is it's color, which I think it's worth doing because it'll make a difference in how people interact with it. But I just wanna make sure we're okay with spending extra money for the color copying.
I'm okay with it. I'll just double check. I'll order some more toner just to have it available because I struggled to get toner at the very beginning.
Well, and another option is to, if we're talking about like how many copies, 600 copies?
Yeah.
Then we might wanna think
Could.
about whether it'd be cheaper to have
Quick
Quick
to
do it, like it might well be cheaper than,
It'd definitely be cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could actually make more anyway, because it's not date specific, right?
No, it's not.
So I could make 1,000 of them or whatever, and just have them around here for mailing.
You know what else we could do with? I'm all on board with that.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of attention deficit thing, that's what people tell me.
Squirrel.
With the audit money.
Yeah.
What if we just, so he gives us this audit, we pay with the money we have in this year's budget, we already transferred money to next year. What if next year he just does fiscal year 22? And then the following year he does fiscal year 24
I just wanna get us
and
caught up.
25. I wanna get us caught up
I
too.
mean, I
But
would
is it
love to
Pause.
see us,
That would, we don't.
Is that, well, also, despite the fact that now he is in touch with you and we're in a good place, we are still like years, like there's still, I mean, fiscal year
oh,
20.
cause we had 21 already, so if he filled in 22, we'd have 3 years. We just
Yeah.
wouldn't have the most recent 3 years.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
But-
no,
but-
that
But
is a good
again, we
point.
could, yeah.
are we generally on the same page that we just want, if we can, to get all of the most recent years audited?
Yeah.
Then, like I said, what if we just pay for, so we're gonna have to pay for 23.
Mhm.
What if we use the next available funds, which we have, to pay for 22? And if we, the thing is when's he gonna get to 24 anyway?
That's why, that's what the question was.
We
When do
won't
we
get to
it?
24, I mean, 24 is not even over yet.
Yeah, well, it'll be next spring before he even starts working on it.
Which is why I wanted to know
Yeah.
if we got him to do 22, if for all we know, he wouldn't even be able to get to it till the cycle when he would start 24, because he may be booked.
Yeah.
Right? But that's why we have to ask the question.
So, in
Yeah.
general, I think what the direction we are headed is, as long as we're all on board, is we're gonna get 23 and pay for 23, and then we're gonna use the funds that open up July 1
Mhm.
to pay for the, if he'll do it, the
Yeah.
audit of 22, which he could begin immediately.
I think he would do it. He seemed to feel like it should be done.
Why did it not get done?
It was short-staffed. It wasn't just.
Somebody,
That's what I understand.
kind of made, a decision was made to not do it, that's what he said.
But this is what I don't understand, because everyone says they wanted it done.
I
don't
think he
know.
was just short-staffed.
He said, he made it seem like it was a decision that came out of town hall.
None of
It
this.
wasn't.
It wasn't. I'm
Okay.
sure he may well have, but that doesn't mean that's the case. I think it could
Alright.
be everybody's like dumping it in somebody else's.
Yes, yeah, pointing fingers.
That's what I'm getting at, that's what I'm
Yep, I hear
Well,
you.
yeah, I'll talk to him about that too. I'll reach out and ask about that.
Alright, I'll move to adjourn,
Second,
and we'll vote roll call on adjourning. Frank,
Yes.
Susan,
yes.
and Justin, yes. Meeting adjourned at 7:46 PM.
Wait, the recording